information and testimonies too. Resources you can rely on and a song for you. So stay tuned, cause you're on the tube with E. You're on the tube with E. You're on the tube with E right now, right now, right now.
Hi, I am Ely, and you're on the tube with Ely. And I'm so glad that you could join me today. We're still going to continue talking about cancer for a while. As some of you may know from watching the previous show, I was a victim of breast cancer, and I was diagnosed in 2015. And so I went through the chemo and I went through the radiation. And the reason why I'm doing this show is so that I could just give out some information that you might not have known, because I know I didn't know a lot of stuff. I learned a lot, And so I just want this information to help you to get healthier, to live longer, and just to be informed, because ultimately the decision for whatever you do is going to be your own. And this show is not designed to give you medical advice or anything else except to help illuminate your mind on healthy things for your body, especially with cancer being so prominent these days. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is to make a couple of corrections. Okay, I want to correct something that I said last week concerning Johns Hopkins Medical Research Center. And Johns Hopkins said that they did not say that everyone is born with cancer cells. They said that it's a hoax, and somebody put that information. I don't know how it got on their website, and somebody put that information out there, and they said that it's not true. They never said that. And what else did they say? They said that certain foods don't, feed cancer cells. They say they didn't say that either. And they said also that, let's see, it says here that cancer is caused by nutrition deficiency. They said they didn't say that either. But anyway, okay, fine. You didn't say that, and that's okay. But I don't think that there's anyone that don't want to be informed on something that's good for them, that's good for their health. I don't think that, there's anyone out there like that. So if it's something that I can find to give you to help you with your health, as someone helped me, then I'm going to do it. Okay? So then the other correction that I wanted to make was, I was trying to tell you about Charlotte Haley. She was the one that discovered the ribbons. She used to make them because she had members of her family that had cancer. And so she started making these ribbons. Well, what she was saying was that it began to be so commercialized. She was not happy about that, and she didn't really want any part of that, because that wasn't the focus that she started these ribbons for. Actually, she has started them just for people to be aware that the National Cancer Institute was not using all the money for the research that they were supposed to have been using it for. It was like something like only 5% of the money was being used, you know. So if it's ever anything that you hear on this show that and you find out is incorrect, you can feel free to put it in the comments. I don't mind being corrected, you know, because I know that is some information that perhaps may not be true. But the one thing that I do know is that there's a lot of information out there, and somebody has to get it and compile it, you know. And I kind of wish that there was that I knew a whole lot more information before I went through the regimen that I went through. And so, therefore, leading into what I want to talk about. So let's recap. Okay, so we discussed that 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women will get cancer. Why is that? Okay, well, let's see if we can shed a little light on that subject.
1 out of every 2 men and 1 out of every 3 women will be diagnosed with cancer. But despite those huge numbers, most individuals don't know what that really means.
At the simplest level, cancer or cancer cells are cells that have lost the ability to follow the normal control that the body exerts on all cells. In our body, we have billions and billions of cells, and they have different functions. It's a very complicated process under incredibly phenomenal control. And if something goes wrong and that control is lost and particular cells escape the normal control mechanisms and they continue to grow and they may spread, that's what we call cancer.
Those cells together, we would call that a tumor. Specifically, cancer is a malignant tumor, and we call it malignant because not only can it invade into adjacent organs, but unfortunately a cancer can spread to other tissues, and that can be life-threatening.
Well, I read that first of all, doctors only had about 4 hours of nutritional training. 4 hours. So they had many hours on how to prescribe drugs instead of educating their patients on good health. Okay, so now I know you've heard of Rockefeller and you've heard of Carnegie. Well, the Rockefeller and Carnegie Foundations, they engineered the medical curriculum. And this curriculum was designed to teach students how to administer medications. Not to find cures, but how to administer medications. And this was according to this Flexner report of 1910. Flexner was founded by 2 brothers, Abraham and Simon Flexner. And which, by the way, is a very interesting piece of information. You know, you can Google it and read it for yourselves. It's called the Flexner Report of 1910. Okay, so when they made this curriculum, the board of directors was really full of people that were on Rockefeller and Carnegie's payroll. So the universities basically taught what the big spenders wanted them to teach. Okay, so they couldn't go outside of this program, a curriculum that Flexner had designed. So now during this time, the homeopathic schools, were gradually shut down or bought out. Okay, so the direction was totally geared toward pharmaceutical drugs. So Big Pharma was, was setting things in motion, getting their plan together. And so by 1925, over 10,000 herbalists were out of business, and a few mysteriously were found to be deceased. Okay. So now by 1940, 1,500 chiropractors were accused and prosecuted. Not just accused, but prosecuted as well for quackery. Okay. So anyone that was not adhering to this Flexner's instituted rules, they were accused of being quacks. So by 1950, all natural medicine and homeopathic schools were closed. That's why you don't hear a whole lot about them anymore, And the course material was tailored toward the drug industry. So listen, physicians had to graduate from the Flexner approved schools in order to obtain a license to practice medicine. So they couldn't go somewhere else outside of Flexner's curriculum. You understand? Okay. So anything that might have been coming from nature, homeopathic, was excluded. Okay. Now, Ty Bollinger, as I mentioned him last week, and he did In the Quest for Cures. Well, that was part of his series on the truth about cancer. He said that the medical profession is really a lapdog for the pharmaceutical industry. And that's because he said, like, most doctors they don't even realize how intensive this fact is. It's like modern medicine is so drug intensive because of the monopoly medicine was created over 100 years ago by Carnegie and Rockefeller. So anything outside of the Flexner institution of rules had trouble receiving insurance coverages. So, it would be next to impossible to practice medicine, without insurance coverage because of liabilities. You wouldn't have, if somebody wanted to sue you for malpractice or something to that effect, and you didn't have no insurance, you couldn't handle that. You couldn't handle it. So disease, unfortunately, has been defined as a marketplace, and modern medicine is a business. Okay, it's not like it's, well, I want to make you better. I want you to get healthier, and some people might, slide through the holes, but the majority keep getting medicine prescriptions. You get a pill for this. You go to the doctor because your head hurts and they give you a pill, but then they have to give you a pill because that pill made your arm hurt or your legs hurt or your back hurt or made you nauseous, So it was just, the drug industry just keeps growing. And it's just, like I say, turning into a business, just like churches nowadays. Well, but that's another subject, So anyway, I said last week that I was going to talk to you about chemotherapy. Okay, let's talk about chemotherapy. Okay, 100 years ago, a great conflict began that would change the world forever. Okay, and that was World War I, also known as the Great War. And it left 17 million people dead or missing in action. And these soldiers, they were like stuck in squalid conditions. They in trenches, and it was just a living hell for them on the front line. But what made it even worse was the industrial chemists. Okay, so in July 1917, troops based in Ypres, Belgium, reported a shimmering cloud around their feet and a strange peppery smell in the air. Okay, and so within 24 hours, they started to itch uncontrollably, just itch so bad, it was just, they just couldn't take it. And they developed horrific blisters and sores. And some of them even started coughing up blood. Well, they had been poisoned by mustard gas, one of the deadliest chemical weapons deployed in battle. And because mustard gas, it can be absorbed through the skin, the masks were useless. So the gas, didn't matter if you wore a gas mask, because this mustard gas would go through the clothing and soak into your skin. So, and unfortunately, it would take up to 6 weeks to die from this mustard gas. So that's 6 weeks of suffering that these soldiers had to go through, of this uncontrollable itching and blistering and just total misery, Well, towards the end of the Great War, the gas not only killed and crippled, but it instilled terror across the battlefield. And the first use in Ypres alone left up to 10,000 people dead, with many more injured. Mustard gas was, one of the number one weapons of poison gases developed by Fritz Haber, a professor at the prestigious University of Karlsruhe, something like that. It's from Belgium, so it's kind of, I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong. But anyway, Haber, he was a brilliant chemist, and he invented process for the industrial scale production of ammonia-based fertilizer. And this discovery by Haber played a huge role in avoiding worldwide famines, and now it feeds about a third of the world's population. And as a matter of fact, it won him the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1918. But his legacy also had a dark side. So even after the war, he, enthusiastically kept promoting the use of this poison gas, and his colleagues would go on to make other deadly gases. So, World War I became known as the Chemist War. But the story of mustard gas didn't end there, and it has a higher ending than you might think. Okay? So, 2 decades later, with World War II looming on the horizon, researchers on the side of the Allied forces feared a repeat of the mustard gas attacks of the Great War. So they tried to create an antidote. And what they discovered led them to a whole different type of battle. Okay? And 2 doctors at Yale University, Louis Goodman and Alfred Gilman, they just delved into these medical records of the soldiers that had been affected by this mustard gas. And they noticed that many of them had a surprisingly low number of immune cells in their blood. Cells that, if mutated, can go on to develop into leukemia and lymphoma. Those are two types of cancers right there. So Goodman and Gilman, they hypothesized that, well, if mustard gas could destroy normal white blood cells, then it seemed likely it could also destroy cancerous ones. And so after successful animal trials, Goodman and Gilman, they looked for human volunteers with white blood cell cancer to test this gas on. Okay. And then they found this patient, they called him JD, and he had an advanced stage of lymphoma. They say he had such a massive tumor on his jaw that he couldn't even sleep or eat, So he couldn't fold his arms across his chest. And so, he had tumors in his armpits. So his case was very advanced. So front and back by cancer. So his doctors, they tried everything they could, but the outlook was, considered hopeless for JD. So with nowhere else to turn, JD agreed to try this new experiment by Goodman and Gilman. And so he was given in 1942, well, August, was it? In August 1942, he was given the first injection of what they call synthetic lymphocytal chemical. This was, in fact, nitrogen mustard, the compound used to make the mustard gas, okay? And so, because of the war, they kept JD's treatment a secret, So it was only referred to in the records as Substance X, okay? So he received a number of treatments and with Substance X, and with each one he became a little better. He could sleep, he could swallow, and he could eat. And he was, much more comfortable. And the pain faded away. Well, this was a monumental moment in the history of medicine. They thought they had a cure for cancer, and it was the beginning of what we now know as chemotherapy. Okay? So chemotherapy really was derived from this poisonous gas that killed so many soldiers and made them, itch to death pretty much. So, unfortunately, I think about 6 months later, JD passed away. But I think that's probably because his case was so advanced, And so we're I'm not going to go all into chemotherapy, but that's basically how it got started. And of course, as time went on, they would add substances to break down the gas so that it wouldn't be so harsh, so harsh. But I tell you, remember I told you how I itch a lot, and the doctors, they're not gonna tell you, well, you have mustard gas in you. They're not gonna tell you that. Basically, they don't even really define chemotherapy. They don't come out and tell you exactly what it is. They just, tell you it's a chemical drug, and for each drug, they give you a paper, and the paper tells you the side effects. It gives you all these big medical terms that, of course, you well, like me, didn't understand, didn't know what all this stuff meant. But I know even now, at this point, and it's been 18 months since I had my last big regimen of chemotherapy, I still itch. I still itch. I itch. My arms itch. My back itch. My legs itch. I itch, itch, itch. Okay. And they don't, when I went to the doctor to find out, why am I itching so much? They didn't really have answers to tell me. They prescribed some cream for me that later on I found out from one of the doctors that if I kept using this cream, my skin would thin. It would thin the layers of my skin, so I couldn't win for losing. So if I'm itching, I can't use too much of the cream, because then your skin is gonna get too thin. I tried Benadryl, of course, but Benadryl, makes you sleepy and makes you feel real druggy. Okay, so anyway, so the mustard gas went from the battleground of the trenches of the front line to the medical profession, and that's where chemotherapy first got started. And I know that you've heard of chemo brain. Well, some of the drugs, one of the side effects, yes, is your brain does get a little foggy, and your memory, it's like it's a little slower, to come to things, a little slower to come to you. So here's what I'm saying. I'm not telling you to not take chemotherapy, not take radiation. If you feel that it's really gonna save your life, by all means, hey, you got to do what you got to do. But what I will tell you is that I just strongly believe that a good regimen, good diet, exercise, and good spiritual mind, all these things I think play an important role in keeping you healthy, so that the chemotherapy don't break your body down so bad. Some people that I saw literally look like zombies. They look like the Walking Dead. The skin was horrible, pallid, grayish looking. They couldn't, I'd come in like, hi, how's everybody, Well, they couldn't do that, it was like, I know sometimes it was even a little difficult for me. So, but I'm still saying I'm thankful for the nutrition that I had in my diet. The fruits, the nuts, the berries, the smoothies with different essential oils and different things, and I'm gonna talk about the ingredients of essential oils in perhaps the next show. So I hope that you do glean something from my telling you this information. And of course, at the end of the show, I always roll the credits where you can go on these websites and look this information up for yourself, you know. But as a cancer patient, I just want to help other cancer patients, or, people who have loved ones that suffer from cancer, or, just found out that they have it. And to find out some things that can make your journey easier, lighter, your burden lighter. That's my plan. That is my plan. And then, of course, as you know, at the end of each show, I provide a song for your listening pleasure. And so, with that being said, I hope that I did tell you something that was beneficial. I tell you one last thing. According to the Ty Bollinger series on the truth about cancer, they were saying that ghost articles are written and presented to the oncologists, and that a lot of them are unaware of the deceit behind these articles, because the information is written, ghost articles, it sounds good, it's reasonable, just like with us when they tell us things sounds good, it's reasonable. So they don't question it, and because they really don't have time to research this stuff for themselves. They're so busy because they have so many patients, and so they don't have time to really get into what the chemotherapy and other medicines really do to patients. So that's where I come in at. I want to tell you a little bit here and there. So it's just so much information on the subject and of cancer, and treatments that can be harmful. So on the next show, oh yeah, that's right, we're going to touch on the subject of the Nuremberg tribunals, and can nature be patented? Interesting, huh? Okay. Well, I hope you have enjoyed the show. And if you have any questions or comments that, you would like addressed, just write them right down there below there. And don't forget to like and share and subscribe. And I will see you next week. And God bless. His presence, y'all. When the praises go up and the blessings come down like a waterfall, like a waterfall. When the praises they go up and the blessings they come down like a waterfall, like a waterfall. I feel His presence. I feel His presence. Oh, I feel His presence. Yeah, I feel His presence. When the praises go up and the blessings they come down, ooh, like a waterfall, oh, just like a waterfall. I feel His presence. Oh, I feel His presence. Oh, I feel His presence. I feel His presence. I see birds flying I feel His presence.